Martin Shkreli, the notorious Pharma Bro, has officially been sentenced for securities fraud, and that sentence is rather lengthy, 7 years behind bars. And prior to being sentenced, he had a tearful plea in court where he finally took responsibility for his actions and said that he wanted some leniency with the sentence, but no, it was not a lenient sentence. Martin Shkreli, as he told the US District Judge Kiyo Matsumoto, he made many mistakes and apologized to the investors that he essentially lied to and made victimized with fraud. Now he said, I want the people who came here today to support me and understand one thing. The only person to blame for me being here today is me. There is no conspiracy to take down Martin Shkreli. I took down Martin Shkreli.
Oh, finally, a tiny bit of justice.
Yeah, and then his lawyer had this great quote that I really wanted to share with you guys. Attorney Benjamin Brofman told Matsumoto that he sometimes wants to hug Shkreli and sometimes wants to punch him in the face. But he said his outspokenness shouldn't be held against him. And the judge did specify that she did not hold his terrible comments in the past against him. She didn't even hold his pharmaceutical price gouging against him. That is not what he was on trial for. He was on trial for lying to other rich people, not increasing the price of medication that helps people with HIV. So for 7 years, awesome.
So I don't know if I believe his tears because the guy's a huge actor and and he loves being a showman. Earlier, he had told the press that the prosecution was junior varsity. I guess they made the varsity team. So I don't know if I believe anything that he says, but he'll have a lot of time to think of new PR stunts while sitting in prison for 7 years. But to double down on Anna's point, his main mistake was not ripping people off in general. I mean, that's a life-saving drug. He buys that company, he jacks it up 5,000%, saying, I'm gonna hold your life hostage. That in America is perfectly legal. People who die because they can't afford that medicine, that's legal, okay? You facilitate the death of poor people and middle class people, that is not a crime in America. But he ripped off other really rich investors. That's what they got him for, because that's a huge crime in America.
So not only did he lie to the investors, what essentially happened was he lost their money and then stole money from his own pharmaceutical company in order to pay those investors back. So there were all sorts of crimes that he committed, but the takeaway that really does stand out to me is, when it comes to the average American getting screwed over, who cares? But if you're lying to rich people, if you're lying to investors, the law will come down hard on you.
Did they take his Wu-Tang album?
They
took. Yes. No, I read it. I just wanted you guys to, all of us to just, you know what? This is the epitome of privilege. It's so funny. Like I see people accuse you of being snarky on Twitter,
and I'm snarky.
This is snark right here. This is snark. This guy really didn't think anything was gonna happen to him. He just kept going and going and going, and he would have kept going had he not messed with his kind, his own kind. Because he can mess with us, right?
As much as he wants,
Martin, you better hope
I appreciate Martin Shkreli because he's very useful in that, usually people of his ilk are much more clever about at least masking some of the most horrible things that they do. He's very useful in that it's like taking the mask off and you kind of see, the monstrosity that is the healthcare system, for example, or just how heinous people that work in finance often act. I mean, what I don't understand is how anyone invested in Martin Shkreli in the first place. I mean, like this dude walks into a room and says, like, rich dudes, give me your money. I promise you, I'll take good care of it. And they believed him.
But Nando, can I just say, I have the answer to that, because he's like, I'm the guy who gouged the average consumer at a 5,000% rate. And so greed won the day. They're like, ooh, that sounds really good. To them, that was not the bug, that was the feature. So they got obsessed in their own greed and thought, oh, maybe he could get me that kind of return. Put their money in, it turns out he screws everybody. And then they're shocked and chagrined and go crying to the prosecutors, and the prosecutors go, oh, it's a rich person? Yes, all right, we're on it, we're on it.
Well, I think it's just human nature to respond well to people with money, right? I mean, like Donald Trump, it doesn't matter how incompetent he proves himself to be time and time again, people will still go back to, well, he's wealthy, he's a successful businessman, but he went bankrupt several times. No, but he's, rich, so. People just, for some reason, respect others who have money, even if they inherited it, even though they didn't earn it. It's crazy. But real quick, I wanted to remind everyone about a previous story about Martin Shkreli. During the jury selection process, the defense attorney had a very difficult time because people who didn't even know anything about Martin Shkreli would say things like, I don't know who this guy is, but I don't like him.
Yeah.
Like
they couldn't find a jury.
Yeah. But investors will work with him.
He has one of those unlikable faces.
He does, and that's why the defense attorney said what is a meme online, that everybody wants to punch him in the face. And he's like, look, I'm right there with you, brother. I had to sit with this guy for all these months while I was his defense attorney. I want to punch him in the face.
And now they will.
Well, yeah, some people might get their wish. And to Aida's earlier point, not only did they give him 7 years, they immediately moved to seize his assets. And that's the thing he probably cares most about. $7.4 million in assets, including the Wu-Tang Clan album that he paid $2 million for. So
that's privilege.
And
come on.
That's true. And you could wrap all this up with, turns out rich people ain't nothing to mess with.
Hey!
I see what you did there.
If you like this video, bless your heart. We got a lot more where that came from. We do a full show every day, Monday through Friday. Come enjoy it ad-free by becoming a member, tytnetwork.com/join.